John, can you put this at the start of the podcast, please?
Yeah, I won't tell him either. Are you recording?
Yeah.
Excellent. Welcome to the show, everyone. Are we actually doing?
Just so people know, Aston Villa have appointed Remy Gard.
Can we start with the Marseillaise, please?
No, we've got something for the beginning. Hello there, listeners. Welcome back. Episode 11. Finally, we've got a full team. It's me, Ben, and I'm joined as ever by Jack and Callum. How are you, boys?
Good evening.
Not too bad.
Good. Now then, an interesting weekend of football. Aston Villa appointed a manager. Callum, quick one-word thought.
France.
Lovely. Anyway, this week we've got another feature, and thank you for saying it's nationality, because it's nationality-based. Ooh.
Another time for us to demonstrate our footballing knowledge.
Yeah.
Or their lack of.
We had a few more reviews this week. A few people criticised the football knowledge. I mean,
I think if people listened past 10 minutes, they'd actually realise that there is a bit.
Listen beyond the feature, and you might be impressed. Anyway, quiz as ever, 10 sort of questions each. I'm going to name a footballer, Premier League, past or present, and you're going to tell me which country he hails from.
Okay, I feel like I might be in an okay situation here, having played Football Manager, because I associate the little flag pictures of every player.
And I feel like Callum's football knowledge is okay enough that we might do well. But obviously they're not going to be players like, for example, Eden Hazard or Wayne Rooney.
Oh, he's...
No, you can't. That wasn't us starting the feature.
I was getting ready to answer them. I know those ones.
Sorry. So, we've got 10 each, I believe. Who would like to go first?
Keno can. I went first last week.
Yeah.
So I'll be a gent.
There's no time on the clock, but obviously, be reasonable. Don't take the piss. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Player number 1, Claudio Jacob.
Ooh.
Again, a tester, isn't it?
Yeah, see...
I know this one.
Well, it's a shame.
I'm thinking Eastern European.
Go on then, be quick. Come on.
Hungarian.
The correct answer is Argentinian.
I knew that.
See, no, right, restart the podcast.
No. Hugo Rodallega.
I
know this one. Can I come in if he doesn't know it?
No. I mean,
but can I just tell you to prove that I knew it?
Yeah, sure. All right, fine.
I hope this is right.
Venezuelan?
Incorrect.
It's either Ecuadorian or Colombian, and I'm going to go with Ecuadorian.
He's Colombian. Well done, boys.
Okay. I thought that was a bit too obvious.
Callum, Benjani. These are good, aren't they? I told you. Before the podcast, I said, this week I'll test you.
I know this one.
I do not know this one.
The correct answer is Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay.
Mikel Forsell.
Finnish.
Correct. Point.
Yes.
Serge Gnabry.
German.
Correct. Point. Max Gradle.
Ivorian. Knowledge.
Correct. He's doing very well. Frederic Canute.
Oh, is it Mali?
Correct.
It is.
Yeah.
John Arnorisa.
There's no way you're getting this one.
See, I was going to go through my thought process, but yes, Norway.
Correct.
Sorry, that was so obvious.
West Ham's player Pedro Obiang.
Sorry?
Pedro Obiang plays for West Ham.
Pedro Obiang.
Just signed.
I don't even know who he is.
Just signed. Wow, don't say that.
Knowledge.
Don't even know who he is. Anyway,
right, get him off the podcast. He's done.
Chat, do you know?
I'm going to guess, and I'm going to guess at...
I know what you're going to guess.
Do you?
Yeah, but you're going to be wrong.
I'm going to say Cameroon.
He's Spanish.
This is awkward.
Keno, Abel Hernandez. Last one.
Oh, that's quite...
No, it's not. That's easy.
It is easy. Abel Hernandez.
Maybe come in if he doesn't know.
You don't get a point, but sure.
South America.
Oh,
I mean that's not
Argentina.
a country.
Yeah, I know. Argentina.
Uruguay.
Disgraceful.
Callum, you scored
4
4 points.
Is that out of 10?
Out of 10.
It's not looking good for you, mate.
That's under.
I feel confident having seen that I'm going to beat
5 points for Selgan, Abri, Gradle, Canute, Risa. 5 points.
That's the same amount of points that the Villa have got. So.
Wow, that's not. Oh, now you've made it sound worse.
He should be their new manager.
All right, we'll talk about that in a minute. Jack, are you ready?
Yes.
Time starts, so there's no timer. Now, Marko Arnautovic.
Oh, see, I know these.
It's a pity, isn't it? Now the pressure's on. 3.
Austrian.
Correct. Yeah. Chorluka.
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
Vedran Chorluka played for Tottenham and Manchester City.
I really don't know this one, so I'll just pass.
All right, Croatia. Milan Baros.
Oh, that's easy.
You're trying to
Czech Republic.
Correct. Lanasa Diarra played for Chelsea, Arsenal and Portsmouth.
Lasana Diarra? Sorry.
Diarra, fine. Close enough. I was using the native way of saying it.
I don't have it. I'll guess. I'm just going to say Cameroon for every single one, and eventually I'll have to say Samuel Eto'o.
French, correct, Callum. Zoltan Gira. West Brom and Fulham.
Already been mentioned, Jack.
Yeah, it has.
Hungarian.
Correct.
Yeah. I did know that
Morgan from Leicester. Yeah. Good players, aren't they?
I want to say he's... I don't want to say... Is he... I don't want to say he's English, because I think he's Scottish.
Jamaican.
Oh, that's awkward. Does he have English nationality too?
Potentially. Burwin Zendin.
Bolo Zenden.
Oh, gosh.
Chelsea.
Netherlands.
Correct. Blimey, take your time there.
Sorry.
Jose Font.
I would say these are easier.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
I don't think it's been...
Font. And now I'm visualising his Football Manager profile.
Come on.
It seems too obvious to say French.
3, 2...
Portugal.
Nah, you were going French. Portugal's the correct answer. Johan Giroud.
Again.
French.
Swiss.
Oh, I just heard Giroud and stopped paying attention. No.
Solomon Rondon.
Venezuelan.
Correct.
Did I get 5?
I'll
That's
count
all that
up.
matters.
1, 2. Oh, blimey, you didn't get that one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. Well,
do you have annoying. A tiebreaker?
10 out of 20 correct. Also, I would have got a few more of those, actually.
Yeah.
I would have got a few of yours too.
I feel like if you're getting half of the points, my feature is once again a success.
I think, yeah.
Let us know in the comment section.
I think they're too easy if we're only getting half.
No, rubbish. I don't have a tiebreaker, so we're all winners. I feel like you're both winners.
We're all winners because we've got Jesus.
I wasn't expecting a tiebreaker this week.
Both our teams are winners as well.
They are winners. Shall we start with the big game of the weekend? We'll come to Aston Villa soon, Callum.
Whether we're winners in the match that's about to happen tonight, we'll see, but we are winners.
We are winners.
So Newcastle-Stoke, big game.
No, the first game of the Premier League weekend was at Stamford Bridge, and under pressure Chelsea played, I wouldn't say resurgent Liverpool, but a sort of, ticking along Liverpool side. And Chelsea, once again, come unstuck to a team that put a little bit of pressure on. Jack, how did you see it?
I loved it. It was great, wasn't it?
It was
I enjoyed watching Liverpool play. For the first 10 minutes, I kind of sat there a bit frumpy, particularly after the 4th minute goal for Chelsea.
I like to imagine a frumpy Jack.
And then I got into it and I started to enjoy it. It's a bit like a wedding where the bit that starts a bit boring, but then it gets kind of uphill from there, and
the disco
keeps getting better and better.
Started.
Exactly, a bit of ABBA comes on, and you're thinking, "Oh, this is great." Then Bon Jovi kicks in. You're on the dance floor.
Coutinho your dancing queen, Jack?
He is.
What did you make of Coutinho? Because he's been under pressure a little bit recently. A lot of players have sort of thrived under Klopp. I'm talking about players like Lallana and Moreno. And Coutinho is the player that sort of pre-Klopp was the one sort of standout. Klopp came in. He's had a few games where he's not been that impressive, and then. And to be fair, up until his goal, it was.
I was about to say, even in
this
game, he wasn't at the races, was he? Really? Coutinho's a player, and he's kind of your impact player. And I know a big thing that a lot of Italian kind of pundits and the press were saying when he came over to England was, great player, not always consistent. Will just vanish. And well, for the last few years at Liverpool, it's been very rare that he has vanished, but it's been interesting to see, especially recently, as you mentioned, really since Klopp has taken over. Lallana's almost taken his limelight away, kind of that spark in the midfield.
Lallana has been excellent, yeah.
And it's kind of going to be, it'll be interesting to see how he responds to this. I think his first goal, fantastic. It's a very Coutinho-y goal with the little fake shot and the long range shot.
It is.
The second goal deflects in. a lot of fortune about it, in my opinion. It'll go down as his goal, but it's a John Terry goal for me.
As Jurgen says, though, you don't score unless you shoot, and I agree with Mr. Klopp on that. You don't score unless you shoot. Chelsea, though, as you say, pointed out that they took the lead. Ramirez with was it a header or just did he shoot? I forget.
He headed, didn't he? Moreno didn't.
Oh yeah,
didn't
Moreno
know where
decided
he was.
not to do defending, which is part of the reason why Brendan Rodgers dropped him. But actually, I think Moreno offers quite a lot. But no, sorry, on to Chelsea. Ramirez, Keno, gets the goal. At that point, I think Chelsea fans sort of started to think, do you know what, this might be all right. And for 20 minutes, they were looking rather good. And then once again, a Chelsea team decide that. What is it? We have to try and pinpoint it on something. I personally think it might just be, quite frankly, a lack of effort. What do you reckon, Callum?
I agree with the lack of effort. I think it's lack of effort inspired by how little that the players believe in the manager at the moment. Because that is the way that first half went for them is like a classic sign of a team that is low on confidence, because they started well, and Liverpool took their time to get into the game. And then as soon as the goal went in from Coutinho at the end of the first half, and then for the rest of the second half, they were nowhere. Their heads just dropped straight away. And it's that kind of reaction to adversity that you don't expect to see from a Mourinho team. You expect them to come, after conceding a goal right before half-time, you'd expect them to come out fighting straight away and to get right in Liverpool's faces. And they didn't do that. And I think that is a very good sort of indicator to how much the players don't believe in Mourinho right now.
Well, funny you mentioned that. I'm gonna come to you, Jack. If you were a Chelsea fan, or if you were Roman Abramovich, is this the point where? Well, I guess if you're a Chelsea fan, Roman Abramovich clearly said, you know, we'll keep him a little longer. Is this the point where you move Mourinho on? A lot of Chelsea fans, from what I can tell, are a little bit divided, and part of that comes from the fact there isn't an obvious candidate to take over. So Mourinho's surviving based on that. You wonder, actually, and it's interesting that Liverpool made the move, that if Klopp was still available, would Mourinho be gone now?
I don't know. I really, it's such a weird situation. I can't think. Often in football, you can kind of, I guess, draw opinions and draw kind of conclusions and predictions based on things that have happened before. I really can't remember a team like Chelsea doing what they're doing at the moment. I think they've had the worst start ever as a reigning champion of the Premier League.
Yeah,
it must be. It must be.
It is. I'm pretty sure
it's so difficult to kind of pinpoint when is that tipping point. And as you said, it's so divided. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, really. I think the reality is for Chelsea now, this season, if they get top four, I believe they have to have the form of the best, kind of the top scoring Premier League points total ever for the rest of the season, essentially,
the thing
just to reach top four. Like, they need to be on course of 90 points.
You're right, and they will have to do that. But if there's one side that you'd expect to be able to do it in the last 15, 20 years, the Chelsea side that won the league last year have certainly got that ability. And the reason we say that so confidently is because we saw it last season. They can go on a run of like 10, 15 games. So it's very difficult, isn't it? From a sort of, I consider, although we're Liverpool fans, Jack, and Callum's a Villa fan, I consider ourselves quite neutral to Chelsea, generally speaking. I mean, from a neutral perspective, I can completely see in the 17 games left? Or 27 games left.
Chelsea, are we at Christmas?
Chelsea winning 20 of them. And by, do you know what? If Chelsea aren't top six by Christmas, I'll be surprised. I'll still be surprised. They're only 6 points off it. I mean, it takes 4 wins and they could be back in the hunt. It's a confusing situation. As far as Liverpool go, though, Callum, Jurgen Klopp, it's his first win for a start. Do you think? I know we sort of spoke about it before that you'd be the perfect man for the job. Do you think he's getting everything out of the players that Rodgers couldn't have got out of the players? Do you think a Brendan Rodgers side would have necessarily won that?
I think the willingness to play a little bit more of a kind of closed game, particularly even after they went behind, they weren't flying forward in the way that you might see a Rodgers team do in a kind of naive way. There seems to be and this is the kind of thing that I've noticed really more so than anything else. There's a great degree of pragmatism in Liverpool's play since Klopp took over. They've not been shipping as many goals. I know you've had quite a few draws. You'd expect that, you know, when he gets his players in and they begin to gel more going forward, that would change. It seemed to be a lot more pragmatic. And although Klopp is a kind of very gung-ho guy, he talks about heavy metal football, etc. His dormant teams could, when the going was tough, shut up shop and hit on the break. as well as press very high. But when that wasn't working, they could still close the game down. And it was quite impressive the way that they just picked off Chelsea, who weren't playing well. But yeah, it was very impressive to see that the slight changes that he's begun to make to their mentality, as you say, it's the same players. And I'm not sure Rodgers would have done that in the same position.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. I just want to talk about the fact that the way Jurgen Klopp is setting up Liverpool at the moment, he's basically doing everything Brendan Rodgers gave you the impression couldn't be done. He's playing Emre Can in sort of a central midfield, and slightly more defensive than attacking, I would say. He's playing Alberto Moreno at left back. He's playing a back four, and he's trusting that back four to do a job. And Diego Costa is almost anonymous at the weekend.
You see a number of parallels already with the way that he's using the players at Liverpool to what he did at Dortmund. He's using Can as a kind of ball-playing deep-line midfielder in a very similar way to the way that
Sahin would have played.
Exactly, he got a lot of success using Sahin before and after. Actually, he went to Madrid and came back, and it looks like he's already spotted kind of pinpointed Can as yes, you're going to fill that role. Moreno likes to raid forward, and we all know that Klopp's fullbacks did that a lot at Dortmund. It was I told you while we were watching it was a very Dortmund-style performance. Actually. It reminded me of watching them play in the Champions League away at bigger teams. And I think that is a really, really positive sign for the long term. I was very impressed actually by Liverpool's performance this weekend.
I think I mentioned to one of you earlier that I don't would if Brendan Rodgers decided upon this, and I think I said it to you, Kino. I don't think a Rodgers team wins the game at the weekend, because I don't think a Brendan Rodgers team goes there and actually thinks they can win. And I think that's the major difference in having Jurgen Klopp. Not only did we go 1-0 down, at 1-1, I was watching it with my friend Peter, and I said, look, we're going to win this. This is they are there for the taking. And Benteke came on, Jack, and do you know what? Sorry, Kino, to talk about him in such a glowing way, but I think he's brilliant. I must say,
I think he's brilliant as well. I said that to you when he signed.
Jack,
he'll do that.
Benteke.
Love him.
Why do you love him though?
He just brings something that Liverpool haven't had in years.
Not even with Carroll.
Well, no, I think he's more rounded than Carroll. I think we've tried to bring in players. We brought in Andy Carroll. We brought in Peter Crouch. We've been looking for that Heskey replacement. We found him.
What the goal? I mean,
it's a little bit fortunate, isn't it, the way it's deflected.
But apart from that, the defending for Benteke's goal was atrocious. It was a good finish, and he did everything that you'd expect a striker of his quality in that situation to do. But really, from where he was, with the amount of players that were around him, he shouldn't have scored like that from there.
I'm gonna just while we move on. Can you find the question about Sturridge? Because I want to put it to Jack.
I will.
There's a question about Sturridge, and I think the reason that I wanted to highlight Benteke's performance is that when he came on, obviously he didn't start the game. Every time he was only, like you mentioned, the pragmatism coming from Jurgen Klopp's sides. Mignolet hit Benteke about 4 or 5 times, and not only was he just aiming it towards him, Benteke won it every single time. And have you got the question, Callum? Because I wanted to put it to Jack about Daniel Sturridge.
I'm getting comfortable for this question. I feel like I'm going to have a long answer.
It is a great question. Christian Benoit asks, should Sturridge be sold if he can never be fit? And if you have Benteke playing the way he is, Jack, do you think you should get rid of Sturridge and cash in?
Well, I've obviously had this dilemma. I'm playing Liverpool in FM16, which came out last week, and I've been having this dilemma because he's never fit, and it's an issue in FM like it is in real life. The issue with selling a player like Sturridge who's really unfit is, and you're just not going to get that much money for him. If you'd sold him 2 years ago, the summer that Suarez left, you probably get 50 million for him if a team's desperate for a striker. The issue is, he's not really played in a year and a half now. If you're trying to sell him now, you're not going to get any money for him.
I actually agree with that.
As much as he's on massive wages, I think on the chance that he either remains fit and finds some form or can have a big impact for the spells when he's in the club, you're probably going to get more from him than you're ever going to get in terms of selling him. You're never actually going to get the value of him in his prime.
Just to follow on from that, I totally agree, because I think that the times, yes, he may be on big wages, but TV money, etc. Liverpool can afford it. I think that the times that he is fit and the impact that it'll have probably outweighs the kind of financial gain that you might get from selling him now. I agree. I don't think he's worth as much as he was 2 years ago, which is sad because he's a fantastic player. And it may turn out in 18 months' time that he has a great season next year, or maybe the end of this season, and his price is as much then as it was at the end of the almost season where you almost won the league.
Yeah.
But right now, his value can't get much lower. So you're not going to get that much for selling him, and the impact that he might have when he comes back into the team is so big. It's interesting though, I don't know what you two think as Liverpool fans. How would you try and accommodate Benteke and Sturridge in the same team? Because I agree with you, Ben, on Benteke. I think he's the striker that could fire you into the Champions League and further. I really think he's that good. But
I think moving forward...
How would you fit them together?
Moving forward, I actually think, although we touched on it briefly, I think he's playing well. I actually don't think Adam Lallana suits Jurgen Klopp's style of play. I think he's very floaty. I think he dribbles with the ball very well. He keeps the ball quite well. But it's not incisive. And I think Jurgen Klopp right now is missing incisive players. Apart from Jordan Ibe, there's not much pace going forward. We mentioned it a few weeks ago. I think the only way you put Sturridge and Benteke in the same team is that you play Sturridge in that Aubameyang type role. And if you can... If that's what Klopp wants to do, put two relatively pacey players on either side, like he did with Błaszczykowski and Royce, and then have Götze in the middle. I'm talking about like the great Dortmund team. The Dortmund team that was really good.
Well, it should be said. You say Aubameyang, he's having his best season now for Dortmund, played down the middle. So it could be the similar Sturridge type thing where he might suffer as a player playing out there.
But in the same way, Aubameyang got that he got the opportunity because Lewandowski was sold.
Yeah.
Now he wouldn't have got that if Lewandowski wasn't sold. So it might actually be a case, and we took like in two years, who knows, right? Benteke could have scored 30, and then some of the top clubs maybe Bayern are looking at him. I mean, a top team, if he's doing what Sturridge did at Liverpool. I know I'm speaking very hypothetically here, indeed, but you never know. And that might be when Sturridge then gets to move back up front. But Sturridge won't be happy, Jack, would he, playing out wide?
Well, I just look at how Heskey and Owen played. That's how they'll work. Rekindle that spirit.
That's so unlikely. That's so unlikely, though, isn't it?
I don't.
Yeah. Well, we talked a bit about it last week after Keno left. How I don't think Liverpool's going forward should be trying to strive to be Dortmund. I think there's got to be a compromise there, and I think the striker position is where that compromise has to be made.
Because you can already see, that's a good point, because you can already see the similarities between the way that those two teams played, the way his Dortmund played, and particularly players like Milner, actually, and obviously Chan and the fullbacks. But I think you're right, it's up front where he might have to adapt to what he's got and to the league a bit more than he did in Germany.
Can I just say, before we move on, because I know we talked about this a lot, there were a few talking points in this game. Mourinho, let's not talk about him. He's had his limelight in this show for a season.
He has.
And he did have a bit of a funny press conference. But there were some decisions that Chelsea maybe feel slightly aggrieved about. There was the goal by Coutinho, which was in the 47th minute. They'd had 2 minutes added time. It was like 27 seconds into the third minute. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were on that. Or the Lucas red card that wasn't.
I think the Lucas red card is the non-red card is the bigger talking point. I think the Coutinho thing, Chelsea didn't like, because Mourinho didn't say anything. You don't know how he felt about it, so it's hard to comment on, isn't it?
It was very funny watching the goal go in, and then it cuts to Mourinho just storming down into the dressing room early.
I'm better not knowing what he thinks of it, to be honest. I'm kind of sick of it.
I like the fact he was getting ready to go for half time, 1-0 up, and then Coutinho scored. I'll tell you what, I was jumping for joy. I was loving it. With the Lucas thing, I think if it's a red card, no Liverpool fan can go, that's unfair. But if it's not, you kind of go, well, that's his last one then.
I do think we were lucky. But on the flip side, Diego Costa did kick Skrtel and nothing happened from that. And on another day, they're both red cards. I did find that interesting. I actually think that, obviously, as you said, he's not going to be charged for that. The FA have said there's going to be no retrospective action. It annoys me this a little bit, not because it's Diego Costa, but because we have such a thing in England about players making a meal of it and criticising them for rolling around on the floor. And I genuinely think if Skrtel rolls around on the floor, he gives the ref decision to make, and by not doing that and by standing up and kind of just staring at Costa angrily in kind of a slightly psychotic manner,
it almost lessens the sort of severity of what Costa did.
Exactly, and I think what we're basically doing is going, he kicked him, but there wasn't a reaction, so it couldn't have hurt, so nothing's happening.
As stereotypical as it is, if Gabriel is the guy that gets kicked, then he's rolling around. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's a South American,
and then he gets sent off for arguing
which
at the ref.
exposes the problem with the refereeing, because it should be, however the reaction of the player that the
it should be the act that gets punished.
If he hasn't been charged, does that mean the ref saw it and didn't give anything?
Because if it's mentioned in the referee's report that he saw the incident and decided at that point not to,
I just can't understand. Even if you see it, And yeah, that's what I was about to say. Even if you see it and you go, he's not kicked him hard enough for a red, surely that's some kind of violent conduct in terms of kicking out, and that's a yellow card. It's a red card by the letter of the law, but if you've seen it, like, what has the ref seen to not give a card?
Again, I think you're right. I think he's based it on Skirtle's reaction.
Yeah.
I think it, because obviously, and referees are only human, it happens so quickly. And a lot of the way you make your decision is based on not so much the split-second act, but also the fallout of how players react to it. Because you can, it's obviously in this case, it was a bit of an exception. But a lot of the time, if players don't react to something, there's a fairly good chance that there was nothing in it. And even if it's the most sort of horrendous act, something like this, which could have got a red card in other circumstances, and players aren't reacting to it as though it was a bad challenge, the referee might think, oh, maybe it wasn't so bad. He second guesses himself, and then by then the game's gone and it's moved on. So you can't, retrospectively punish Costa, which probably you should have done.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. There were other games this weekend.
I apologise to the viewers because Liverpool were last week, so we thought we had to start with them and talk about them for half the show.
Chelsea just dominate everything at the moment. Swansea 0, Arsenal 3. Going into it, a few Arsenal fans are a little bit nervous, I think. I think they've sort of been bitten by Swansea before, and they were worried it would happen again.
Several times, yeah. Yeah,
several times. And as you point out, Callum, Ozil was fantastic once again. I think he's coming into form a little bit towards Christmas. I think if he can keep it up, Arsenal are certainly contenders. And Olivier Giroud gets another goal, and he's a player that's maligned. Not really. I don't think the press give him that much grief, but Arsenal fans give him quite a lot of grief. Is that how we see it?
I know you asked.
Yeah, go on. Let's take it.
But I think because he's the lone striker at Arsenal, really until this year where Walcott's kind of come out of his shell a little bit as a striker, there's that air of expectation that he has to be the guy to put the ball in at the back of the net, particularly when you've got creative players like Cazorla and Ozil playing in behind. There's that kind of, I guess, thought process that even if he doesn't have that many chances, he should be having enough chances to score because of the players behind him.
Is it unfashionable? Is that what it is?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that second point, but I agree with Jack in the sense that until Walcott, who has quite impressively sort of hit form as a striker this season, until that point for the last 3 years, if Giroud was on a bad run of form, which is perfectly acceptable, all strikers have it, if he was out of form, it was so noticeable because Arsenal had no replacements or no equivalent players to him, and the fans would instantly notice if he wasn't playing well. And get on his back. If there is some stat, and I've heard it mentioned at the weekend, and people write reviews and say we've got no knowledge, but there was something about Giroud that his goal record is fantastic since he joined. It might be the goals per game.
It's second to Aguero.
Yeah,
I think since Olivier Giroud, I think it's since the start of the 2013-14 season, only Giroud has a better. Only Aguero has a better goal scoring record than Giroud.
It's like you guys follow the same Twitter account.
I can believe that, and he so consistently scores goals when he's playing well, and his return is pretty consistent. But the thing is, you have to pair a striker like that with someone else who can chip in.
But he's never hit 20, and I think that's the thing for Arsenal fans is that they want that 20 goal a season guy. They want a Benzema, they want a Higuain.
Like I say, yeah, he's not the man to lead you towards a title like a Suarez might have been.
Well, I'm pleased you brought that point up. Do we think Arsenal are title contenders? We spoke about it very briefly last week. I think it's who did, sorry?
There were a lot of just general Twitter questions about this exact point.
Okay, so. I think to say they're not is you just don't like Arsenal. Actually,
I agree.
Because they undoubtedly are as a title challenging side this year. I think Czech has made a huge difference to how it's not necessarily that their defence has got better. It's just that they look like they are. They just look. What's the phrase? They look so much more composed this year.
They look threatening.
They look
angry.
Defence doesn't look threatening.
Solid though. It just looks solid. It looks like there's a foundation there.
You mentioned Ozil at the start. I think he is the big difference maker in this team. I know kind of going into this season there was a lot of people, there was always that debate, is Ozil that good? Has he kind of hit that Madrid form at Arsenal? And you'd get the people who go, he goes missing all game. And then you'd have the people who he's still been one of our best players, even if the stats don't reflect that. And to be honest, until this season, I've kind of sat on the fence, I think, a little bit with that. I didn't really have an opinion one way or the other. I kind of felt like some games he really stood out, and then other games he did just go quiet.
Yeah.
But this year he's been the Madrid.
He has that way.
Yeah.
He has that way of running a game without like touching the ball a lot of the time. He can, just by his movement and the passes that he does play, he can have such a huge sway on like the way that the other team defends and the way that Arsenal go forward, just by like his eyes and the movement that he makes at defenders. He creates so much space with his passing and movement. And he lives for assists. I think he does have the most assists in the league this year. But he always looks for that extra pass, which, when it's going badly, it looks awful. And people say, why don't you take a bit more responsibility? But oftentimes, when a goal's needed, he can pick out the pass that makes it a certain goal. He's doing that all the time at the moment. I think the ball that he played for Joel Campbell's goal at the weekend was great, because he picked him out right at the back post and it came through. I think that was the goal.
Yeah.
He's just got a huge influence on the way that Arsenal are playing at the moment, more so than Sanchez right now. Because I think Sanchez is actually beginning to suffer from playing all summer in the Copa America.
Yeah, that's interesting that Wenger's brought Joel Campbell into the team.
Well, he's had to, because they've got a lot of injuries. He's had to because of that ridiculous situation in the week where they were awful against Sheffield Wednesday, but he put on a sprint-based player in Walcott after about 30 seconds warm-up, and instantly got subbed off. He's had to do that.
It's very Arsenal, that, wasn't it? They brought Walcott off, and then Oxlade-Chamberlain had to come off as well. Both got injured.
I will say one thing, and it links to your point, and it also links to the fact that was it Campbell? Did Campbell come on? No, yeah, Campbell started. Did he come on or did he start?
Campbell started, yeah.
The fact that he had to start this game, my big worry for Arsenal is, do they have strength in depth in the final third? Because you look at their bench for this game.
Yeah.
There isn't a recognised Premier League attacking midfielder or striker there. There was no plan B in this kind of game. And I think on another day, Swansea defend that little bit better.
Does Torgan Abriel go back from West Brom?
Yeah, and he's hardly played. And sort of Pulis has been making funny noises about, he doesn't look good enough, which is funny because West Brom are awful going forward. It looks like they can do with him. But it does look like he might go back. Actually, I think they've got a lot of players out injured, and this is currently Arsenal at the bare bones even going forward. They've got Rosicky out, obviously Oxlade-Chamberlain and Walcott.
Is Ramsey out? He came back to me and got injured.
Yeah,
I think
Wilshere's a long term.
You say bare bones. I think if you look at the team that started for Arsenal, apart from Joel Campbell, say if you put Oxlade-Chamberlain or Walcott in there, that's pretty much their starting 11.
They're still missing a lot of players, though.
I admit their bench is probably weaker than it could be, but that starting 11 is still good enough to beat a Swansea, for example.
My point is that they're performing at this rate right now with a lot of players out injured. So, and I think they'll get those players back before the end of the year, apart from the long term, your Wilsheres and that kind of thing.
Do we think Arsenal have been tested yet?
No. That was the point.
I think United was their first test, and they passed it with flying colours.
Yeah, obviously they lost to Chelsea, which is curious, isn't it? Considering Chelsea got 11 points, 3 of those came against Arsenal. It's interesting, but other than again, Arsenal beat Chelsea in the Community Shield.
Yeah, and they've beaten
Bayern.
They were very impressive against Bayern. They've got them again this week. I do agree. I don't think they've not had one of those kind of table-topping, big sort of cup final like league fixtures yet.
Yeah, when the pressure's on, I think the big thing is really we're yet to see Arsenal under pressure. Now Arsenal have got a very big week coming up. They've got Bayern Munich away, and that's kind of their make or break. In a strange way, that could potentially be their make or break for the Champions League. And then Tottenham next week, who are in some good form. I think that will be the first time.
Not lost since the opening day Spurs, and they won't lose tonight. So
well, I mean that'll be an interesting game, and then Arsenal really don't have another a tough game, like a proper tough game. Admittedly, they go to Villa Park on the 11th of December or the 13th of December until they play Manchester City, and again that's another home game for them. So it's going to be interesting to see when Arsenal are really tested, if they can stand up to it. Should we move on?
I just want to say, are you worried for Swansea? They're on their worst run of form since Gary Monk took over. I think they've got 2 points from the last 4.
I think they're just...
Well, they beat us the week before, so
they're a classic Premier League team that has these ebbs and flows. Like, in the same way that Swansea's form isn't that good now, Stoke had that at the start of the season, right?
Yeah.
Now they're on the same amount of points.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think they're just going to float around a little bit. We're going to see teams like West Brom and Watford potentially drop off, although Watford had a good result this weekend. I just think... No, I'm not. To answer your question, Jack, no, I'm not worried about them.
I agree that they will kind of float around with teams at that level.
Yeah. It's the Palace, Watford, sort of West Brom, Swansea, Stoke section, which Villa would quite like to be a part of.
I would love to be a part. I would love to be floating.
Two teams at either end of that little section, Everton and Sunderland. Everton scored 6 goals in a game. And Big Sam, England's future manager, according to Callum Keane, once upon a time. Big Sam, oh dear, it's not good, is it?
You could tell this was going to happen, and I'll tell you how I knew this was going to happen. Lukaku, fantasy football captain. I was that confident. They had such a great result last week. It was just going to happen. They were just going to get thumped. It's a very Sunderland thing. It's a bit like, the fact they'll always beat Newcastle and then somehow stay up and no one really knows why.
Exactly.
Or how.
But I think they'll stay up. I watched did you watch did you see the Sam Allardyce chitter chat with Jeff Shreves?
I did. I feel like I've missed out now because I love myself some Big Sam chitter chatter.
Actually, the way he spoke about it, I was convinced, in the same way, Callum, that you convinced me that Tim Sherwood would be able to put Villa in a European spot pre-season. Big Sam convinced me that he will keep Sunderland up. Like, it will happen. But because the way he's going to go about it is, interestingly enough, his big point was clean sheets. Got to focus on clean sheets, and then
that was a great time to say that before they ship 6. I think the transfer window will be massive for them, as it will be for us with Remy Gard.
I don't know if it will be because they've spent so much money already. Can they afford to continue shelling out money? I know it's like the biggest year in Premier League history.
That is the exact point I was going to make. They literally don't have a choice.
No.
A lot of Premier League clubs this year, in January, are going to go mental. I think Norwich will do it. I think Villa will probably have to do it again. I don't think there's sort of a choice there. It'd be interesting if Ashley put some more money in his pocket. Sunderland will have to do it. Bournemouth, what do Bournemouth do at this point? They're in a big issue. Their issues are there.
I agree, and we can talk about Bournemouth later, but I think they will maybe be the exception because they will be able to take the hit of going down again. But yeah, I take your point that there's going to be a lot of spending in January, more so than most other years, just because of the prize that awaits.
Chelsea will panic
to go down.
Chelsea will need to get in someone like Kevin Nolan just to steer them
out.
Can
I just say now, Chelsea are going to sign Pogba and Ibrahimovic.
You honestly, I mean, thank you.
He's on a different planet.
Can I just say thank you for saying that?
Vardy's going to Real Madrid.
At the end of the series, when I make a compilation of all the stupid things we've said, thank you for that. Can someone remind me about 35 minutes into episode 11 that Jack said he thinks Pogba and Ibra are going to Chelsea? Thanks,
if one of those happens, oh my god.
Yeah, when they don't happen,
I'm sorry, I've heard Ibra at the end of the year is going to LA. Yeah. Well, no, David Beckham's MLS team.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, anything's possible if that's a story. And Vardy's going to Real Madrid.
If you'd like to know
it's
how
funny because the
Vardy
Real Madrid one has actually.
I've also heard Walcott to Barcelona.
Yeah.
I can just imagine when they fill the Bernabeu and Jamie Vardy's doing keep-ups and he's just not doing very well.
It'd be a weird sight, wouldn't it? El Clasico, you've just got Jamie Vardy and Theo Walcott shaking hands at the start. Like, that's going to be weird. That would be weird. What kind of weird parallel universe is that? I've got goosebumps thinking about it.
But a good win for Everton. Strange team. Don't really know what they're going to get each week, but, I think scoring 6, they're always going to be happy. Aruna Kone gets a hat-trick. Just thought I'd give him a nod, really.
Yeah, fair play to him, because he has got it in the neck from Everton fans since he signed. I think a lot of them thought, and a lot of just sort of neutrals as well, thought that it was a kind of a Wigan sort of henchman for Martinez, as he went to a new club.
Yeah.
In the same way that Alcaraz was. But, he was really, really good, and he's looked good this season.
Deulofeu did a really bad dive.
Have you seen the footage of the referee afterwards as well? Don't
repeat it.
I won't repeat it, but it looks like from the lip reading expertise of which I have none, it looks like he says effing cheat.
Yeah.
Which I find quite funny. I'd like to think that the referee just has a go at divers on the pitch, kind of tells them off like a naughty schoolboy.
Have you seen it, Callum?
The sad thing was that I did, and that kind of that is the story, because Deulofeu was actually brilliant during the game.
He got a goal, but no one remembers it. Everyone remembers his dive.
Everyone will think about the dive, but he's young. I think he'll do that, but he'll cut it out eventually, and he's a fantastic player. So
I feel bad for Sunderland because they kept a clean sheet for the first time in 10 last week, and then they shipped 6.
They scored 2 away from home and then just concede 6. You shouldn't laugh. You should laugh because it's football. It's
just to end the Sunderland chat. I think actually it's a bridge too far for Big Sam. This job.
Do you?
I think they'll be down.
Wow, you've changed your tune. All right.
With England
It's
in
more
the
of an
summer, they
indictment.
get sacked when they get relegated.
It's more
Roy
of an indictment. It's more of an indictment of the situation that Sunderland are in. I would back Big Sam, but even I can't back him in this situation.
Who does Sunderland need to sign then to stay
I
up?
reckon Fabregas wants safety, and he might move. You know, he's got a big career ahead of him.
To be fair, you're ripping into Sunderland. They're ahead of Villa at the moment, Keno. So
yeah, and that is a testament to how bad we've been. That Sunderland are somehow not bottom of the table.
And I know this game hasn't been played yet, but we're on the talk of Villa. Should we move over to Villa Spurs?
I was going to go to Jamie Vardy.
Well,
no, we'll do.
Can wait.
I agree with Jack. Let's do.
Yeah,
Villa.
I bet you bloody do. Right. All right. Well, Remy Gard has been appointed. It's dear Remy. Well, it's not dear Remy, is it? We were talking about it pre-show. What is
Cher
it?
Remy.
Cher Remy, which is dear
Right,
Remy.
we're now becoming a French podcast, so continue.
Okay, well,
They've heard the intro. They know what's up.
Remy Gard, he's in the stands tonight after being appointed as Aston Villa. Has he officially been appointed? I'm just
Yes,
sure.
I got an email just before recording. I got an email from the Villa.
good.
I love that. I love
Who
the
was
fact
it?
Villa just email all the season ticket holders like, by the way, we've got a new manager in case you didn't know.
Nice
I love
of
the
them
fact
to
they're
let
still
me
doing
know.
my email. Would they have sent out a letter? Would they have sent out, like, if you were in the supporters group? So, what happens now, Callum?
What happens now
This is quite funny because everyone's going to hear this after the result.
So
I
you've got to. I can tell you what. First, predict tonight's
Yes,
game.
I agree,
If you mean,
Jack. Absolutely.
Okay. If you mean what happens right now, we will lose quite handily to Tottenham Hotspur. That's what will happen right now.
Scoreline?
Well, they may be sort
Can
of
I
trying.
say that was a very French?
They may be trying to. They may be conscious that he's there, and we actually played quite well in the game that Timmy was first watching, which was Carlos Hill scored that amazing goal in the cup. Oh no, it was the Leicester game actually.
Well, Micah Richards is suspended.
Yeah, I think we will lose 2-3-1-0.
Harry
Like that.
Kane.
2-3. You're expecting a goal or two.
I've won all sorts of stats. Harry Kane's my fantasy football captain, so I'm hoping you're absolutely right.
That could be a good one. But actually, what happens now in the slightly medium to long term is quite. I'm quite optimistic. I think it's actually our most progressive.
Sorry, Callum. I spoke to you at the start of the season with Sherwood.
I was optimistic then.
You were very optimistic.
Forever
then.
optimistic until like 3 losses in a row, and then
Callum, you've
Jump
betrayed
off the
the trust,
sinking
mate.
ship.
Well,
I just
really,
don't
if
know
you
what to
look at the
think.
whole, we've been dragged through the dirt for the last 5 years consistently, and it's very rare that I actually get time as a Villa fan to be optimistic. I genuinely think this time that
I can't take it seriously.
I think it's probably our most progressive managerial appointment since maybe
Tim
even
Sherwood.
maybe O'Neill or possibly Houllier, but we didn't really get to. We finished ninth that year, but we didn't really get to see what he could do. But there were early signs that he was beginning to change the way that we play. I'm just glad that we've gone for a slightly more progressive style of football. I think, like I've said before on this podcast, I think the Premier League experience argument is rubbish because look at the team that we're playing tonight, Pochettino. He arrived at Southampton in a very similar situation actually to where they were in the table, maybe slightly higher, but very similar. With no Premier
Could be
League.
lower, could it?
No, with no Premier League experience, and is now at Spurs, one of the best managers in the league, I'd say. Look at maybe Slaven Bilic at West Ham. There's a very long list of managers. If you're a good manager, you can come in and make a difference. And Gard, while he's only managed one club really that successfully in Lyon, he had a good track record with young players, brought players like Lacazette, Fekir through. He will, and this is probably better for the short term. I think he'll get the best out of all the French players that we actually signed this season.
Amarvi, yeah. Let's
I think
see.
not so much because of the fact that they're French, but they might be able to relate more to his style of football in the short term. So I think he'll keep us up, and really it will just be interesting to see whether the club pulls their finger out over the long term, and if they can sort of change the way that we've been stuck for the last 5 years.
Well, he's got Man City next week.
Gets easier, doesn't it?
And then he's got an international break in which he's
we've
got to
got-
go away to Everton. So all the best.
We do have a horrible run of fixtures for the next month.
You play Watford and Southampton back to back. That's not
Yeah.
too challenging. But yeah, even so, I mean, any game for Villa right now is
until we get
tricky.
to the transfer window. Really, I'd treat it in the same way that you're treating it with Klopp. And there may be draws, there may be losses, but I think we should be okay in this season, and it'll just be interesting to see where it goes from there.
Can I just say, who I feel sorry for today is Sherwood, because he's now sat watching Monday Night Football and it's 2 of his former employees playing. or employers playing. It's a sad day for him, really.
Not even that long ago.
He's going to be sat there, I feel like, in a darkly lit room with a glass of red wine, kind of sipping it whilst muttering under his breath.
Tim Sherwood doesn't drink wine. He's down the boozer. He's with his mates.
Do you reckon? I can imagine having a delicate
vodka martini. No, he thinks he's James Bond.
He does.
He's vodka martini every day.
He's got a chaise lounge, and he's just sat there. As he's probably been that now, guard's been appointed, getting rid of everything French. No wine. Italian wine now.
His wife goes, "Do you want breakfast? Yeah, go on. Do you want it in bed? Oh, go on then. What you got me? Croissants. Get them out. Get rid of them. I don't want to hear. Get rid of your croissants. I'm not interested in your chocolate thing, whatever it is." Anyway, I want now. Can I talk about Jamie Vardy? Been desperate to.
You can. So
he's set a record. He's equaled a record.
Equaled a record, yeah.
Well, equaled second place of a record, which apparently is.
Is that really a thing?
Well, apparently so. He's equaled Daniel Sturridge. I think someone else did it as well. I think Van Nistelrooy did it as well. But Van Nistelrooy's got like a better record as well, doesn't he?
He's got 10.
He's got an 8. I think it was 12, was it? 12?
10.
Yeah, he kept going after that.
Anyway.
10 on the 23rd of August 2003.
Thank you.
That off by heart.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Read it.
Jamie Vardy's hit 8 and 8. It was a good goal as well. Do you know what I liked about it? He did a bit of a celebration in front of the West Brom fans. And although I don't like Jamie Vardy, and I think he's a horrible little man, and if he'd done it against Liverpool, I'd have been livid. I quite like seeing footballers give it back to fans that are giving him abuse for an hour. I don't know. I'm in favour of it.
No, I agree. And it was the pace he showed to get away, not only to beat the centre. I know he's running against very slow West Brom centre halves, but when he actually got the ball, he kept running away. Like the speed that he showed while dribbling was very impressive, and the finish was excellent. It almost looked as though, were he not in such good form, he could have screwed that up a little bit. But he's playing so well that he put it away.
Mahrez played well too. Mahrez is the other guy, isn't he?
I was about to say, I feel like he gets kind of left out a little bit because of how well Vardy does. Mahrez's stats, he is the reason that Vardy is getting as many goals as he is. And I know that's maybe a slightly controversial thing to say. He's been out bloody standing this season. He'd
cooled a little bit the last few weeks, but yeah, at the beginning, the first 5 or 6 games of the season, and then in the last 2 weeks, he's picked back up again.
I think he's got 5 man of the matches so far this season in 10 games. The fact that he's getting that many man of the matches compared to Vardy, who's scored as many as he has, I think that tells a bigger picture than just looking at the goal kind of.
It's interesting that you mention. It's interesting you mention the bigger picture, because I'm going to stick with my kind of scepticism about Leicester, because they came from but they came from
They're going to win the
again.
league.
They came from behind again this week, and while those 2 players in particular are playing so well, they are always able to bail themselves out against teams like West Brom. But I just think the fact that, and no one's really mentioned it that much, the fact that they keep going behind and shipping 2 or 3 goals a game quite often, when those players stop scoring and stop playing as well, which they will do at some point, they will tail off quite.
Why?
Because it's obvious that they have defensive frailties, and right now
you said when the players tail off. So you're saying Mahrez and Vardy won't keep this up.
Yeah,
why?
Why? Because I don't think that they have the ability to keep it going throughout the whole season.
I'm somewhat playing devil's advocate, but they've got double the points Chelsea have. So
it's worth noting here, Leicester, they've scored 17 goals under Ranieri. 15 have come in the second half. Like, if you want to put a bet on a team to come back at half time, just stick all your money on Leicester most weeks, except when they tail off, whenever that is.
Yeah.
There is a concern for me that if you're that slow at starting, there's going to be games where it gets away from you, and it almost has a few times.
I think we're only talking about this, because it's Leicester. We wouldn't be saying this if it was Arsenal City.
Yeah, but there's a reason.
But I don't think they're in that situation. I don't feel like Arsenal or City, that's the kind of team who are going to, go a goal down and then need to come back every week. I think that they're the kind of team that kind of take the ball by their horns, and they don't need to be prodded a little bit before they actually get going.
And actually, if a team like Arsenal or City were coming from behind so much, a lot of people would be talking about it. It would be a talking point. And in answer to your question about their offensive players, it's very, very difficult to sustain a level like that throughout an entire season. They will come and go in terms of form. Vardy won't continue. He'll probably go for another 5 games now scoring, but he won't do that for the whole year. And it's obvious that they're a bit gung ho and sort of suspect at the back, and I think that will come back to bite them at some point this year. But I don't want it to make it out as though I'm sort of anti-Leicester, because I think they've been a breath of fresh air this season. They've been great. I
was playing devil's advocate. I was trying to goad you.
It's worth knowing, as well, I don't think Leicester have won by more than 1 goal this season. No, they haven't. No, first game of the season, 4-2 against Sunderland. Every other game that they've won, a 1-goal margin.
That's Sunderland.
Whoa, are we discounting the 4-1 victory against Bury?
I was talking about in the Premier League.
All right,
I think it is worth considering that. They only have a positive 4-goal difference.
It's
they
admirable.
are scraping by 1-goal margins. And there's nothing wrong if you can keep doing that. I just can't think of a team ever who's won every game they've won in a season by 1 goal.
In that similar fashion. Yeah, but like you say, to close that, it's been great to see Vardy play. Because actually, and I think one of the questions as well, I don't remember who put it, but it was a kind of Vardy for England type question. And I would like to see him played down the middle where he plays for Leicester in one of these friendlies against, a Holland or a Spain.
You live in dreamland, and you know you are.
Because someone will be there in place of him. But it would be nice to see. To see how... Because he offers something a little bit different while we have Sturridge out, which is sort of pace, sort of direct running, and he can finish too. So...
I'd like to see it, but there's no chance.
It won't happen, will it?
West Ham, I've done the West Ham thing, and it's a shame. Whenever West Ham lose now, I feel like we focus on them. But Watford and Ighalo, Jack, you've been loving him all season.
I did praise him after the first day of the season. I said I liked him and Deeney up front. I'd like if we could rewind that. You just said you were going to do a montage of all the bad stuff we've said and all the good stuff. I was praising Ighalo. I didn't know how to say his name at the time, as did no one in England except Watford fans.
Okay.
But he's proven himself. He's playing regularly now as an international for Nigeria, which I don't think he was before this year. And he's got 2 again today. And he's loving the Premier League, and I'm loving him.
It's quite nice to see... it's quite nice to see a kind of traditional sort of 2-man forward line, actually, with Deeney. I know Deeney is playing a little bit further back, but he's still kind of a slightly more traditional centre forward. It's quite nice to see them kind of dovetail in a sort of conventional 4-4-2, because you don't really see that nowadays. And you're right, they've got a great partnership, and it's quite interesting to see how that's faring. I think they'll be fine this season.
I've got quite a funny stat for you here.
I've got a quote. You do your stat.
Ighalo is the highest scoring Premier League player in Watford's history. I don't know if that's a testament to how fewer goals they've scored in the past, but the fact that he's done that and we're still in November is slightly amusing.
Blimey. The quote I've got, actually, and we mentioned managers not taking responsibility, namely Mourinho. Slaven Bilic came out and said, from the start we were basically second best. They were better than every football department and totally deserved to beat us. We didn't have the energy. They were quicker, more hungry than us. Today it was just that. I'd love to hear Mourinho come out and say that one week.
But you wouldn't, would you?
But you won't. But it's interesting that Bilic is prepared to say, after he's had a really good start to the season, he's prepared to say, look, they were better than us.
Personally, I think he was weak and naive in saying that.
Well, Flores said he was really pleased with it.
Sorry.
Very happy with you're a mug, with the result and the performance. So, you know what? I think Watford fans can be very happy with it. And Watford... I think if Watford fans could say, where do you want to be 10 games in, I think they're about mid-table, right? I think that's just where they want to be.
They've got 16 points now. That's more than what Villa and Sunderland are going to get all year. So,
combined.
Sorted.
All right, well, congratulations to them. There were some other games this weekend. We'll touch on them very briefly. City just about beat Norwich. Joe Hart had a bit of a mess.
So someone asked on Twitter question here. Someone wanted to know if we think Butland can go in goal. I'm going to find who it is because I feel it's unfair.
I think they deserve a shout out. I've got them up right now.
You can tell us then.
Gravy Boat FM, Dave says, can Jack Butland cement his place as England's number 1? I think in the future. He's unfortunate that Joe Hart is so cemented in as starter for City and England. But he'll get his time maybe after Hart gets a little bit older, but he's a fantastic
I've got this horrible vision in my head of Butland going to Man City next summer.
But why?
Because they need homegrown players, and I could just see it happening with Joe Hart.
I think Joe Hart's still really, really good.
Yeah.
He's made one error.
He's head and shoulders above the rest.
That's great. But I think the question...
Sorry, Callum, stop it. Jack, come on.
Sorry, that was quite a good one.
It wasn't even bad, but I just like to get annoyed at you about it.
I think the question was more about how good he is, which the answer is very good. He was wonderful.
Top 5 in the world for me, Joseph Hart.
He kept them in it. I agree about Hart, but
you talking about Butland? Sorry,
yeah, the question was about.
He's a Stoke fan.
The question was about Butland, and he kept them in the game for a lot of it.
He's been very, very good this year. I was looking at some stats. I think he's made the most saves in the Premier League, which, I mean, is that a testament to how good he is or how bad Sunderland are at letting shots come his way?
Stoke, yeah.
Stoke,
Once Fraser Forster comes back, England have got a quite nice sort of wealth of goalkeepers. John Ruddy's not on that list,
Rob Green.
I should say, Norwich fans, because John Ruddy has been... Declan Rudd, Norwich fans will agree with this, Declan Rudd needs to start starting Premier League games because John Ruddy is all over the shop.
You want to talk about Norwich and the City? I thought they were actually quite impressive against City.
Well, they will be away from home. Norwich are solid, but the problem is there's no real cutting edge. Their goal comes from a mistake. It's not because they're breaking teams down like time after time. They're just getting a little bit lucky, and it's...
This game was a nightmare for me because with 80 minutes in, I was in a very good situation fantasy football wise. I've got Kolarov at the back, I've got Gael Clichy at the back. I'm thinking, well, they're getting 6 points each for the clean sheet.
Yeah,
and then they concede, and the points drop down to 2 each. And at
that
point,
as well, your favourite.
At that point, I'm thinking 2 points each. Well, we could have had 12 boys, but 4 could be worse. What happens? 93rd minute, Kolarov steps up to take a penalty and misses it and ends up with 0 points.
To be fair, I'm surprised you're bringing up fantasy football.
I had a good week this week. Lukaku was captain.
I'm talking in general.
Oh, yeah. It's not been great for me.
Yeah.
I love the fact we have like a little chat where we'll discuss things over the weekend. Every week, Keno comes in and goes, well, my team looks good on paper, but they're just not performing for me.
It's the classic Jose Mourinho, in actual fact. Keno's sick of himself. That's the big problem.
Yeah. I do.
Paul Scholes has said Manchester United, well, Louis van Gaal's Manchester United are boring.
They are. It was 0-0.
But they are, Jack. But does it matter?
I was watching a totally legal stream of the Liverpool-Chelsea game.
Good.
And then immediately following that was the Manchester United-Crystal Palace game, which, of course,
I don't have that channel,
completely legal. And they were like bigging up as the big game at the weekend, and I turned it off because it was going to be boring. And it was boring. Did Rooney start again? I turned off for this game by match of the day.
Yes, Rooney did start again, Jack.
Of course he did. I don't know why I asked.
Yeah. Will he keep starting, though?
Well, it depends on if they sign Vardy or not, doesn't it?
Maybe so. No, serious point, though, Callum. Does it matter if Manchester United are boring?
I'm not sure. I think the United fans would trade that for... Actually, yes. I think it does matter if they're boring. I agree, if a Chelsea or a Man City were slightly playing how they were, I don't think the fans would mind. I don't think many of the ex-players in the media would mind. But because it is United, because they have such a sort of history, particularly in the 30s...
They always have that thing to compare them to, don't they?
Exactly.
Any United team from now onwards is forever, for like the next 100 years, going to be compared to Sir Alex Ferguson's team.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to take that mantle. Football 2016 has come at the right time for me. YouTube.com/NotToMenGFM.
I actually think that Van Gaal doesn't give a shit. And to be honest, all he cares about is winning, which is fine, and I actually respect him for it. I think people will whinge, but he'll go about what he thinks is the best way to get results.
Does his contract run out at the end of this year? Is this
end of next year?
Is it next year? Because, like you said, I don't think he's a long-term manager. I think, as far as he's concerned, he has a goal to get the team somewhere. It doesn't matter how he does it. He's just got to set it up for whoever's next.
Well, Giggs.
Yeah.
He said Giggs.
Yeah, it will be.
So I think Scholesy's going to come in. He's like, you've all played boringly. We're going to play entertaining.
Okay, can I just make a point about Paul Scholes at the moment?
This sounds serious suddenly.
It does sound serious.
I just think that he is so chippy. He's so chippy as he's now a pundit for BT Sport, and he other TV networks are available. He just sort of goes off on one a lot. He did it about England in the summer, I think, and before the World Cup. Very rarely does he offer a kind of constructive point of criticism. I may be wrong. I may get comments about that, but for someone who's often so sort of thoughtful
timid
and reserved in what he says, he does come out with a sort of column quote every couple of weeks that is usually quite damning and not particularly constructive.
The thing that annoys me about some of the points he makes as well is, if you make a point about football and then can provide an argument that kind of makes me agree with you to an extent, I'll nod my head along and go, well, I can see your point, but I don't necessarily agree. But I feel like with Scholes, he just kind of shoots bullets everywhere. He's kind of, just spraying out unpopular opinions to try and sound relevant and kind of, get his voice out there.
Well, yeah,
it's funny you mention that, because we've got a review actually on iTunes.
Oh, excellent.
I'm joking.
Is it from Paul?
It's from AWC 93.
No, he's not. He wasn't back. We didn't even get an update on his review.
Back?
Well, we didn't get an update on his review, so I'm disappointed.
We should do Twitter questions actually.
Should we go to that now? Bournemouth are apparently predicted to come bottom at Christmas. Villa fans are delighted.
We missed a few games. Should we just touch on them for the briefest of moments?
Did we miss
Newcastle,
one?
Stoke. Forgettable. Right, let's move on. That's
Thank you. I appreciate that. Newcastle will be delighted with no goals conceded and no red cards.
I'm not worried. There's another game that wasn't 0-0 that we've just kind of missed.
No, we wouldn't.
Southampton, Bournemouth, but we've talked about that. We
didn't at all.
We mentioned Bournemouth at one point. Southampton, good win, well done. Excellent questions.
Good win, well done. Callum.
Hello.
Questions, please.
Questions. Let's see. We've kind of. People
Can I just say, there's a lot of questions this week. Like,
there is a lot of questions.
The first few shows we did, we didn't get a load of questions, but people are coming out in force on Twitter. Like, if you've got your own questions, just tweet us them during the week and we might use them. We tweet out just before we're about to record on a Sunday or Monday night.
Yeah. I encourage people to send it throughout the week, though. Yeah. I'm down.
Do it. Send us.
Do it.
I mean, a lot of them, actually, and this is usually the sign that we've had a good show, we've covered a lot of these questions during the actual main part of the show. But there are a couple that sort of correspond. Miles at Pardinator and Frizz_face Jason Rogers both ask kind of very similar questions, basically with Chelsea's position in doubt as the sort of top four. Just a kind of quick prediction about who you think might fill
Leicester.
that space.
Well, I'd like to say Liverpool.
I think this is Liverpool's best chance at top four in a long time. I think Tottenham will be thinking the exact same. Yeah,
no, I think, like as I said last week, you can't, if you're going to put Liverpool in the conversation, you can't rule out Tottenham. So, yeah,
and Spurs are in just as good a form. I hate to make it all about Chelsea, but there is it's in the news right now. Lloyd Alexander does ask, who do you think could replace Mourinho if Chelsea sacked Mourinho? Who would be?
I've genuinely heard, this is. And Mick, our friend Mick Jack.
I know what you're going to say. I love you, Mick, but this is bloody mental.
Brendan Rodgers.
That's what a Chelsea fan told us he wants. I mean, I've heard Ancelotti.
He's not the only one, though. Apparently, AVB was mentioned. All the managers, everyone that's been at Chelsea, you can't be rumoured with this job unless you've had it before or
just been there
or been part of Chelsea. I mean, Avram Grant is sitting by the phone.
I'm thinking Ranieri.
I don't think they'll replace him. I think if they do replace him, they'd be foolish not to say to Ancelotti, please, just for 6 months, deal with this mess.
I feel like it's a weird situation because I think it very much depends on what you think the problem with Chelsea is as to what they should do. So with Liverpool,
I mean, I don't think Mourinho will be gone this. It's funny because it's really going that bad. I do think that they'll be back in the top six by Christmas.
If he's not gone by now, when's he going to go?
Yeah, I think he'll probably have till the end.
Here's the thing with Liverpool, we were kind of saying either Rodgers needs to go sooner or later. I was kind of very much pro Rodgers getting sacked as soon as possible. A new manager can come in. This season doesn't become a write-off. The issue for Chelsea is the longer this is going on, the more of a write-off it's becoming. And I just can't see them making a change until the season's already gone. And that's assuming you don't think it's already gone now, which, to be frank, it probably has.
I think it already has.
I know Chelsea are they're a big club, right? So obviously managers going to be interested. But which sort of manager worth his salt is going to look at this Chelsea situation, come in after Mourinho, a man that is 15th, and a lot of those Chelsea fans don't even want to leave. They were seeing his name at the weekend, 3-1 down.
They weren't when they conceded the third.
But who's going to... Well, regardless though, who is going to want that Chelsea job now at the end of the season?
Sam Allardyce, Sherwood...
English
manager. They need an English manager.
The problem is, right, whatever happens, Chelsea are in this situation now where whoever comes in, it's similar to the Ferguson and United thing. Mourinho is that big a sort of...
Moyes.
He's an icon at Chelsea, isn't he?
Yeah.
David Moyes. I mean, Callum, I didn't think we had an answer, but thank you. Thank goodness for that. Steve Evans might take it.
That would be good.
Which would be the craziest appointment they could make.
Yeah, let us know. Tweet at us.
Keno, this is what's going to happen. Keno and me have got a thing about Pardew, so we'll mention it. I think what will happen is Pardew will miss out on England when Roy leaves in the summer and be forced to Chelsea.
I think
Roy goes to
Chelsea will say, Alan, we want you. And he'll be like, well, I've got bigger fish to fry. And then eventually... when Brendan Rodgers does get the England job, or Gary Monk, he will be he'll be like, well, I'm going to have to accept your offer and lead Chelsea Football Club.
And then by November, we'll be saying, well, it wasn't my first choice. As you know, I did have other
The way you
intentions.
just said, I'm going to have to accept your offer, that's like something out of Dragon's Den, isn't it? Where they've had to compromise. Well, I'll take your offer. And they kind of shake hands really awkwardly. Can you imagine that, actually?
I imagine that is how Alan Partridge looks for a new job.
He's going to be stood there in a room. There's going to be 5 Premier League chairmen sat in front of him, and he's got to sell himself.
That's amazing. This is right. You know when I had a feature for the fans, Jack, and I didn't actually have a reason for what it could be?
Yeah.
Dragon's Ben, right? Was the feature idea, Dragon's Ben. This is Dragon's Ben.
I'd love to see that, a reality TV show where it could be non-league chairmen and random fans have to try and sell themselves to the chairman who are looking for a manager.
I think we're on. Don't talk too much about it. We don't want to give them ideas.
Well, TalkSport stole our feature, didn't they?
You can be Deborah Meaden, Jack.
Have you heard about TalkSport stealing our feature?
Well, not our feature. I mean, okay, do you want me to level with you?
Go on, then.
I got it from a website, so did they.
Outrageous, right. Ben steals his features, ladies and gentlemen. TalkSport, I'm sorry.
To the point that someone told me and tweeted me, and I removed TalkSport because I didn't want to be called out publicly. I was like, I'll reply, but I'm not getting involved because they've taken it from The Independent.
I just don't know how to feel now. I thought we were an original podcast, but maybe we're boring like the rest.
This week's feature, unsurprisingly, wasn't original. I mean, with the help of Wikipedia, it wasn't original. I think that. Have we got any more questions, or are we wrapping this?
No, I think we've covered it all. It pretty much wraps it.
We've covered it all, Callum Keane. Anyway, tune in next week for another episode of Dragon's Ben with me, Deborah, and Keno. Boy, anything you'd like to finish with, boys? I guess the socials, Jack.
Oh, can I try out your product that you're selling?
I'm out.
I say, yeah.
I've
just killed the mood, haven't I, here?
Yeah.
Sorry, when you called me Deborah, I felt like I had to go on a Dragon's Den
At
reference.
For the Fans Show on Twitter. Follow
I'm not
us,
interested in For
ask
the
us
Fans.
Questions.
This has got so bad that
I'm
Callum
out.
has typed in our conversation end show. That's how bad it's got, Jack. You do a Dragon's Den related joke and Callum's like end this right now. So
anyway,
just hang up.
go and follow us on Twitter. Go and rate the show and rage about our football knowledge, etc.
I feel like this week we've done a good job.
I think while you're doing it, you can rage all about our knowledge as much as you like. Just give us 5 stars.
I do like the fact the shows have slowly improved. I feel like we're hitting a peak now, and the outro to this one is just.
Can we keep it going for the rest of the season, Jack? I'm not sure we can.
Well, I thought we were going to end this show now, but if you want to keep it going for the next 6 months, I'm ready.
From me, Ben, Callum, and Jack, we'll see you again next week from Dragon's Ben and Us. Goodbye.